two NBA player props here on PrizePicks for Monday, December 23rd. Massive NBA slate here today. Before we get started, you guys take a look in the description below. Hop into the Discord, $9.30 per month. Currently doing a promo right now for first-time members of the Discord, 20% off your first month using promo code TUFF with the link in the description below. It's like $7 for your first 30 days. Again, that's where I post all the plays I'm making on PrizePicks. We have other cappers in there as well. Super positive community overall. Everyone in there just trying to help each other cash. I also want to mention I'm not a gambling expert, not financial advice, simply just plays I'm personally looking at making. Hopefully giving you guys some insight and analysis to make your own player prop decisions here. Again, no one's pressing submit on those parlays other than yourselves. But let's get into it. Like I said, massive NBA slate today. So many games going on because there's no games tomorrow for Christmas Eve. And then we have the Christmas Day games. So again, a lot of these games too have some pretty high, crazy spreads. There are some close ones, but like OKC Washington's 18. And then we get Knicks, Toronto's at 14, Miami, Brooklyn's at 10.5. I think there was one more. Cleveland, Utah is at 14. So Boston's at 10.5 too. So nonetheless, hopefully we don't get some blowouts. Hopefully, obviously there is going to be some blowouts, but hopefully we do get some competitive games. I got two player props here, both fantasy scores that I like for this slate. Yeah, let's not waste any time. Let's just get right into it. First play I'm looking at here is going to be Sochan over 29.5 fantasy. Again, power forwards against the 76ers when Embiid is playing. It's like a wagon. It's just a system play. And Jeremy's been playing really well. Really well as of late. He's over this line in 4 straight games, 33.5, 45, 43, 30.9. In competitive games as well, he's going to play just a ton of minutes in general. If we look at his fantasy score game log this season, he is over this line in 10 of 15 games. 10 of 15 games this year, he is over this line. And then again, in games when he does play, 27 plus minutes, he's over an 8 of 10. So this is a pretty low line for Jeremy Sochan in a game that should be competitive. I mean, the Spurs are a pretty good team, and this is a 6-point spread here. Again, Embiid plays, so when Wembanyama is on Embiid has a ton of usage offensively, so it just allows power forwards to go crazy, right? We know forwards, fantasy score game log this season versus 76ers in 28 plus minutes. I mean, you can see the hit rate here. So many guys have gone crazy against the 76ers, specifically that play the power forward position, like Miles Bridges, 34 and 28.9. Pascal, 41.1. Obi Toppin, 43.1. Franz Wagner had 45 back-to-back. Who else plays power forward? Cam Johnson, 43.2. Jimmy Butler, 52.2. Franz Wagner here, 62. OG Anunoby, 40.2. And a lot of these games are without Embiid. And the power forward system play gets even better when Embiid does play. I mean, we're talking about Jeremy Sochan, this season, essentially really over his last, I would say this is like over the last 15 days or so, 30 days or so. He's averaging 43.3 fantasy points per 36 minutes, averaging 1.2 fantasy points per minute. And this is a pretty decent sample size in 229 minutes this season. And his fantasy score game log versus 76ers, I mean, he hasn't had a ton of games against them. Last season, 30.6 fantasy in 33 minutes. But he has gotten a lot better this season, like really a lot better. Been playing super well as of late. I mean, his last 5 games when he plays, 27 plus minutes, he's averaging 39.78 fantasy points. He's had 33.5 over more in all those games. And again, this is an outlier, by the way. You can get a link with the link in the description below. You can get a 7-day free trial. But yeah, Jeremy Sochan, first play is 29.5 fantasy. Second play is Mark Williams over 20.5 fantasy. Just too low for the per minute type of player that Mark Williams is here. This season, he has been on a minutes limit. I could see his minutes increasing even more in this one. He hasn't played since December 19th. 17, 19, I can see him seeing like 22 plus minutes in this one, hopefully, against Houston at home. But again, his last 3 games, so 17 plus minutes, 31, 23, and 33.1 fantasy points. Per 36 minutes, he's averaging 58.3 fantasy points. He's literally averaging 1.6 fantasy points per minute. This season, 58.3 fantasy points is what he's averaging per 36 minutes. Obviously, he's not going to see 36 minutes, but just to show you the type of impact and, usage and fantasy points per minute type of player that he is when he is on the floor. We go back to last season, or this season, like I said, right, when he plays, let's just say when he plays 16 minutes this season, right, he's over in 3 of 3, averaging 29.3. If you go back to last season, when he played 16 minutes, over in 16 of 19 games, when he played, 16 plus minutes, when he does play like 20 plus, right, over in 15 of 18, averaging 31.24 fantasy points. As far as matchups go, like Alperen Sengun is a pretty good defender, but I mean, versus the center position, the Houston Rockets are a good defense overall, but but the impact that he has defensively, like we go to steals plus blocks, right? Houston allows the seventh most blocks, Houston gives up the second most blocks to centers, and the third most total blocks overall, which is giving us that upside for Mark Williams defensively, as he does have, multiple games here with at least a block in this one. And then we look at centers, right? Fantasy score game log season versus the Rockets win 18 plus minutes. I mean, the hit rate on this is pretty crazy. If we look at essentially the last 10 centers that have played 18 plus minutes versus Houston, uh, you know, all 9 of 10 centers have cleared this line. I mean, Drummond had 6.92 to like this line clears 23.8. Like 20 and a half is just too low for Mark Williams, who should see, close to 20 minutes in this game. At home, should be competitive. 2 player props for this video. Keep this video as brief and concise as possible. Check out all the links in the description below. Hit that subscribe button, and as always, let's cash.